The Cadillac brand in the 2020s centers mostly around the Escalade and the CT4 and CT5V Blackwing. Those are the vehicles that draw the most amount of attention, but also they're performance-driven, and more importantly for the Escalade, it's all about that premium luxury. Exactly what a Cadillac needs to be in the 2020s, but also in this ever-evolving market where luxury technology is really what's driving the segment as a whole. But when you take a look at the rest of the lineup, whether it's the CT4, CT5, XT4, XT5, or XT6, Cadillac is doing some really cool things, not only when it comes to the styling, but also the technology, but more importantly when it comes to just overall sales and drawing in consumers, they're doing great things with the XT4 and XT5. The XT4 actually outsold the Audi Q3, BMW X1, and Mercedes Benz GLA in 2023, and so far, heading into 2024, there's a lot of positivity moving forward with this model. And in this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the 2024 Cadillac XT4. We're going to take a look at the exterior, the interior, take it out for a test drive, and also see why, if you're looking at buying a luxury subcompact crossover at around $40,000, the Cadillac XT4 might be the best fit for you. Now, before we get into this review, I'd like to thank Cadillac of Norwood in Norwood, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Cadillac inventory. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. As the luxury subcompact crossover market has demonstrated throughout the years, it's not the badge that determines a buyer's choice. Conventional wisdom would suggest that the Germans are the ideal options in this segment. But for smaller SUVs, it's the underdogs, like the Cadillac XT4, that have become a consumer favorite. It's not the performance or even necessarily the design that's led to Cadillac outselling its European opponents. In fact, one could argue it all boils down to the XT4 size and family friendliness. However, for 2024, a new dimension has been added into the equation, and that's technology, a component that's often held Cadillac back compared to rivals. But this time around, this crossover is more well-rounded. Starting off with pricing, the XT4 we have today is the luxury, coming in at just under $42,000 when opting for all-wheel drive, and is Cadillac's smallest and most affordable crossover in the lineup. Tailoring to a market where buyers expect luxury on a budget and a sufficient amount of practicality, Cadillac positioned the XT4 to serve both the subcompact and crossover segments under $50,000, as its size would be comparable to a Lexus NX more so than a Volvo XC40. In terms of dimensions, with a length of 181 inches and a width of 77 inches, that's about 4 inches longer and wider than the all-new BMW X1, which is considered to be one of the most practical options in this price range. While it does outsize many subcompacts, it's too small to compete against the likes of the BMW X3 or Audi Q5. Highlighting this refreshed XT4 is the sleeker and modernized front fascia, that to a certain extent does take elements from both the Escalade and the Lyriq, as Cadillac has taken a keen interest in sculpting the headlight housings and integrating them into the grille for a free-flowing and upscale appearance. Much like in prior model years, the LED daytime running lights run vertical. However, the turn signals and LED headlights have been repositioned, giving the XT4 a striking road presence even in base form. For the luxury, chrome accents will provide a nice contrast with the body color. And while Cadillac sticks to their heritage when it pertains to the smaller details, the XT4 doesn't appear outdated despite this generation being around for a handful of years. Moving over to the side profile, the luxury comes standard with 18-inch wheels, with higher trims offering 20s. Ride quality with the smaller tires does work wonders, and masks the fact that the XT4 isn't a premium luxury crossover. However, it does maintain a reserved composure even for a vehicle of this size. Since the luxury doesn't have a sports-tuned suspension, don't expect to be taking on bends and twists in the road at higher speeds. But as a commuter vehicle, it does have the on-road comfort you demand in a luxury crossover. You'll have body color folding side mirrors with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then as you make your way around to the back, there's nothing new for 2024, as the XT4 maintains the same design as pre-facelifted models. However, what is worth noting about the luxury trim more specifically is that there won't be exhaust cutouts in the bumper, and if that's one of your must-haves, upgrade to the premium luxury. Just like up front, you'll have LED taillights for a modern look, and when taking a glance at the final third of the XT4, it does have somewhat of a hatchback rear fascia and lower roofline, which does play a factor in overall interior space. Under the hood, the Cadillac XT4 is powered by the same 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, producing 235 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with a 9-speed automatic transmission. Unlike with their sedan lineup, Cadillac isn't pursuing the idea of replicating German competitors, and that's actually been a part of the successful formula for this crossover, as it's more one-dimensional from an on-road point of view, leaning heavily towards a luxurious and softer driving experience. In regards to straight-line speed, the XT4 can reach 60 miles per hour in around 7.5 seconds, and while that isn't class-leading or blisteringly quick, you'll have the confidence to merge onto a highway or pass slower drivers. Our model does have all-wheel drive, but if you're looking to save some money and you don't encounter snow or treacherous road conditions throughout the year, sticking with the standard front-wheel drive drivetrain might make more sense for you. For fuel economy, you're looking at right around 23 miles per gallon in the city and 28 miles per gallon on the highway. Stepping inside, all your attention will immediately be drawn to the 33-inch curved screen that's found in the Cadillac Escalade. Despite being the base trim, which does lack additional features that would heighten your experience behind the wheel, for a crossover price just above 40 grand, the interior is quite the eye-opener. While not the most customizable screen out there, you will have different layouts, including the Google-based navigation system, but you can display digital gauges or go for a cleaner, more minimalist look. For the user interface, the layout and functionality is an evolution of the head unit that we saw on pre-facelifted models, but more enhanced and responsive than ever before. In the past, Cadillac's part sharing with Chevrolet and other GM products was obvious the minute you started interacting with the interior. However, now we're beginning to see a sense of uniqueness that is certainly required in this growing market. For the luxury, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility is standard, and for those who enjoy listening to music, this trim does come equipped with a 7-speaker sound system. Great to see for the refreshed model is that Cadillac retained the rotary dial and quick access buttons found on the center console, giving you more control over the infotainment system if you prefer not reaching for the touchscreen. While you can adjust the climate control from this head unit, there will still be physical buttons and dials found below, which provides a nice balance of an analog and digital interior. Of course, a rear backup camera with trajectory also comes standard, and better yet, resolution is pretty sharp for a crossover in this segment. For interior comfort, you'll have power adjustable leatherette front seats that provide an exceptional amount of support, and something we typically gloss over is the center armrest, which is positioned in a way where you can truly relax on a longer drive. Heated front seats and a heated steering wheel are optional, and a must-have if you live in colder regions of the US. Also noteworthy is the two-toned interior on this model, bringing a classy touch to the cabin. As we return to the center console, tucked away is a USB-C and USB input and a 12-volt outlet. And to the right of the rotary dial are the buttons for the traction control, auto start-stop, and drive mode selector, placing everything within arm's reach of the driver. For the center storage compartment, there'll be plenty of room for smaller items. And as you can probably tell on higher trims, you can receive a wireless phone charging pad. Then to round out the front seating area, even for the luxury, you can opt for a power moonroof, which our model doesn't have. Now taking a look at the second row seating area, this, in my opinion, begins the incentives to purchasing an XT4 over a BMW X1, Audi Q3, Mercedes Benz GLA, and maybe even a Lexus NX or even an Alfa Romeo Tonale. For passengers in the back, they're going to receive an eye-opening 39.5 inches of legroom, which would be class-leading and outsizes a lot of vehicles in this market by around 2 to 3 inches. Now, if you're looking for a vehicle that is family-friendly, but you don't want an SUV the size of an XT5 or maybe a BMW X5 or X3, then the XT4 has to be on your list of considerations, because for a vehicle of this size, for a subcompact crossover, there's a lot of interior spacing, and in fact it is very practical, and that is unheard of for a lot of vehicles at this particular price point at around $40,000. Now, one thing I do want to point out though is that when it comes to headroom with the XT4, since you don't have a traditional SUV roofline, I do think taller passengers might be hitting their head on the headliner. But in regards to legroom and even shoulder room, they're not going to feel claustrophobic or cramped. But let's take a look at the center seat. Now, you are going to have some great placements for your feet. The center hump is pretty aggressive, which will take away from legroom and possibly shoulder room as well. And even though the XT4 does outsize a lot of its competitors by around 5 to 6 inches in length, width-wise, it still falls in the same category as other subcompacts. So I think with that being said, you might not be able to squeeze in a third person on a longer drive. I think people will start feeling a bit cramped at that point. But if you do have a smaller child sitting in the center seat, it might work, especially with having average size adults on the outboard seats. But I do think that if you are looking for a vehicle that can fit 5 people comfortably, you might want to take a look at the XT5. Then on the driver's side, this seat is adjusted to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I have a lot of legroom here where I can just sit back, relax, and enjoy the driving experience. So, if you do have average-sized adults sitting throughout this vehicle, everyone should be comfortable and able to enjoy those longer trips and those longer commutes. So, if you're looking for a subcompact crossover, but you want the interior spacing of a compact luxury crossover, that's where I think the XT4 might be a great option. Also back here for the luxury, you do have 2 rear air vents to go along with the USB-C and USB input. And rounding out the second row seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. As you make your way around to the back, the practicality continues with the XT4. And with the luxury, you do receive a power liftgate. And inside, behind the second row seats, you're looking at right around 22.5 cubic feet of room, making the XT4 a bit of a tweener. You hear that term a lot on this channel because vehicles like the XT4 kind of fall in that gray zone where it's not necessarily a true subcompact crossover, but it's too small to be a compact crossover. For practicality, it does fall right in line with the new BMW X1. It outclasses the Mercedes Benz GLA and is similar in size when it comes to the cargo space to a Mercedes Benz GLC. So if you're somebody who doesn't want a larger vehicle and you like having a smaller crossover, the XT4 is perfect because it still gives you that practicality that you're looking for at this price point. I was able to fit all my camera gear, no problem. So that's 2 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod. And still had extra room for longer items, but also maybe if I was going to go grocery shopping afterwards, I could throw them back here as well. I think that if you are going on a road trip with the family, you can easily fit probably 6 or 7 bags of luggage, if not more, making the XT4 very versatile in that sense. Then with the second row seats folded, you're looking at right around 49 cubic feet of room, which would outclass most vehicles in this market. Now, even though the XT4 isn't going to be your first choice when it pertains to performance or a sporty driving experience, when you take a look at the practicality and family friendliness, that's what the XT4 really shows its value. Now, not equipped on our XT4 today, but I do see the indentations for it, would be your rear cargo cover, which will keep all your valuable items out of sight. So if you are like me and you have camera gear or anything else of value, you can leave them back here and have that peace of mind knowing that no one will be able to peek in and steal what you have. Then once you're done, just press the button and the liftgate will close automatically. So we're now behind the wheel of the 2024 Cadillac XT4. Let's take this vehicle out for a quick test ride to see how it performs, how it handles, how it drives, how it compares to other luxury subcompact crossovers out there, and also to see if this is a worthy choice at around 40 grand, especially with this model being a luxury. And when you are looking at a subcompact crossover, you're not expecting to receive all the bells and whistles. You're not expecting to receive the most premium luxury experience. And the Cadillac XT4 isn't going to give you that. It's not an Escalade, although with the interior now with this 33-inch curved screen, it kind of feels like a smaller Cadillac Escalade to a certain degree. But from an on-road perspective, though, this isn't going to be a sporty experience. This is geared more towards a driver looking for comfort and luxury only. Very similar to what we see from the Infiniti QX50 and Volvo XC40. And I don't think Cadillac really needs to placate to somebody who is looking at a BMW X1 M35i. Because performance-wise, you're getting right around 235 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. Also, you have this 9-speed automatic transmission, which isn't really aggressive at all, which really kind of plays into what the XT4 is all about. But performance-wise, it falls right in line with the GLA. It falls right in line with the Audi Q3 and also the BMW X1. So it's not going to be falling behind in any way, shape, or form, at least where it needs to be on par with its rivals. But also, when you take a look at what this model is providing when it comes to the intangibles, the interior space and the overall practicality, that's really all buyers are looking for right now for a luxury subcompact crossover. However, with this being a Cadillac, I'm going to be solely focused on the ride quality, the suspension, and also the interior sound deadening. Now, of course, with this being a 4-cylinder engine, it's going to be a bit drony, it's going to be a bit loud, and you do hear that when you are on throttle. But when you are cruising around town at around 35 to 40 miles an hour, you're not hearing a lot of that outside world. You do feel very isolated behind the wheel, which is not something you would expect at this price point. Now, of course, you can go higher up in the trim levels, so the premium, luxury, and sport, where you're probably going to get more premium quality materials for the interior. But if you're looking to buy a vehicle at around $40,000, this is still pretty nice. It is a nice upgrade over a Chevrolet or maybe even a Ford. But mechanically speaking, though, nothing's new compared to pre-facelifted models, so I'm not expecting anything different, but this is a nice refresher compared to the last time I featured the XT4, which was about 3 to 4 years ago. So I want to see how this compares to other vehicles that have also experienced their own refreshes. Now, I am currently in sport mode. I think this is probably the best drive mode for this vehicle, just from a handling perspective. Because with the XT4, you're not going to have a tight handling, you're not going to have a tight suspension or a sports tune suspension. So when you are going around sharper corners and bends in the road, you are going to feel some of that body roll for sure. So let's get on the highway here. See what the XT4 is made of. And in sport mode, throttle response is more aggressive. It's also more responsive as well. And I also noticed that the gear shifts do give you a bit more feedback. Now, for a lot of vehicles in this market, you're going to get clunky dual clutches, and you're also going to get some unrefined automatics, whether they're CVTs or just traditional automatics. You're not going to get the best experience, especially at around $40,000 to $45,000. But because you have this 9-speed automatic that shifts through the gears very smoothly, it's going to be a nice serene experience for you, relatively speaking, if you are hopping in from a more mainstream brand. At highway speeds, you're not really hearing a lot of that road noise. Also, because we have the 18-inch wheels, you're not going to be feeling the bumps and imperfections in the roadways. So this is still going to give you a nice luxury experience, even though it's nothing close to an XT6 or even an Escalade. However, as a daily driver, as a vehicle that is going to be a family-friendly choice, I think this is going to be very conducive for a lot of people at this price point. On the brakes, nice and strong, very firm braking too, which is something I wasn't expecting for the luxury. So you're going to have that confidence when you are approaching intersections and also if you need to stop on a dime. Now, getting into the overall visibility when you are behind the wheel of the XT4, the A-pillars are relatively thin, so I don't think you need to worry about having blind spots when you are approaching intersections or red lights. Then when you take a look at your side mirrors, they are decently sized. I can see what's in my blind spots. And then looking out back, even though the XT4 does have more of a hatchback-like rear fascia, I can see what's directly behind me, so that's really great to see. But so far, 10 minutes into the test drive, I don't really feel the bumps and imperfections in the roadways. I'm not getting those jolts, which is exactly what I want to see for a vehicle in this market. So let's go on this little back road here. Let's see what the handling is like. In sport mode, the steering is pretty firm. There is some nice weight to it. However, it doesn't pair very well with the suspension because it's not sports tuned, so you are going to have some body roll in the corner, so keep that in mind. This is not going to be a sporty vehicle in a sense. It's not going to be agile, but I don't think that's what the XT4 really needs to be at all, at least right now in 2024. Well, nothing is new from the on-road perspective for the XT4. Interior-wise, this feels more upscale and grand than a lot of vehicles in this market. What I can really appreciate is that you do have the 33-inch screen, but they didn't remove the rotary dial, which BMW did with the X1. And that to me was a huge loss and a huge subtraction, because with Cadillac, they really need to be focusing on the technology more so than performance. That's what's going to be driving this vehicle in the future. That's what's going to be really what a lot of buyers are going to be looking for, because they don't need to be prioritizing the needs of somebody who is looking at buying an Audi SQ5 or BMW X1 M35i or even an Alfa Romeo Tonale. This vehicle reminds me a lot of the Infiniti QX50 and Volvo XC40, and those are two vehicles that I would say are direct competitors, because even though the Q3 and the Mercedes Benz GLA really prioritize luxury first, they're still not going to give you the sense of just being all-out luxury. There is a sense of sportiness there, especially with the Q3 and the GLA having more of a sportier tuned transmission. Whereas with the Cadillac XT4, this 9-speed is pretty soft and a bit sedated. And again, that's not a negative for a model like this. Where the Cadillac XT4 has excelled and succeeded, where a lot of brands tend to fail, is giving you a vehicle that is strictly luxurious. A vehicle that is designed for somebody looking for a daily driver that's not going to be aggressive, that's not going to be unsuitable for them and their families, but also give you a vehicle that isn't going to be lacking in a sense. And with the XT4, it has this sense of continuity with every single component, whether it's the suspension, the transmission, or even the accelerations. Everything is smooth, everything is linear, and now for 2024, the interior matches up with that. And a lot of vehicles in this market tend to fail. They don't give you a luxurious experience in a sense. They don't give you the technology you demand in 2024. They also don't give you the comfort either. And that's where the XT4, I think, has really surprised a lot of people throughout the years. And I think now for 2024, everything is beginning to make sense. And it's the technology that was lacking in the past. And now with the 33-inch screen, with the updated front fascia, Cadillac now has a vehicle that can most certainly go head-to-head with the Q3, with the X1, with the Mercedes-Benz GLA. And when you take a look at what Cadillac has been able to achieve over the last few years with this model, there's a reason why it's outselling its closest competitors. So to quickly wrap up my time with the 2024 Cadillac XT4, has the refresh made this model a very compelling choice in the luxury subcompact crossover market? Well, I've always felt that this vehicle had a list of reasons and incentives to at least consider it, if not buy it, over a BMW X1 or Audi Q3 or even other subcompact crossovers in this price range. And a lot of it boiled down to the fact that you had a lot of interior space, that you have 39.5 inches of legroom. That is unheard of, but also even the cargo space behind the second row seats. As I talked about earlier, the XT4 isn't a compact crossover, but it's not necessarily a true subcompact crossover. So it really gives you a nice balance where if you're somebody who doesn't want a large SUV, but you still want a vehicle that is family friendly, that's what the XT4 makes a lot of sense. But outside of the practicality and even the intangibles, I've also loved the interior of this vehicle throughout the years, that you had an intuitive infotainment system, you had a rotary dial and touchpad, which you still have for 2024, but I've also felt that this vehicle was exactly what Cadillac buyers wanted, that it's just luxury, and that's mostly it. That it's not a sporty vehicle in a sense. It's not going to go head-to-head with an X1 M35i. It's not going to go head-to-head with other sportier variants out there. But I think for a lot of shoppers who are drawn into the Cadillac brand, that's not too much of an issue. They want comfort, and you get that even in a luxury trim with these seats. And then now for 2024, you have this 33-inch curved screen, which I think from a resolution standpoint is something that you don't see from even German rivals. A lot of German rivals will give you a cheaper infotainment system and you're not getting the best from the brand. But with Cadillac, you kind of feel like you are, because this is the exact same setup that we see in the Escalade. So that really, to me, means a lot, because it at least tells me that Cadillac is focused on technology moving forward with their lineup. But then even when it comes to performance, it falls right in line with its competitors. So it's not falling behind in a sense, but also it's not lacking in the key areas, which is very crucial for this model, especially since this will go head-to-head with some German rivals out there. But if you're somebody who doesn't care about performance, you just want interior comfort, you want interior quality, you want a vehicle that is going to be a great daily driver, I think that's where the XT4 is going to be a great choice. But also if you're somebody who's considered a Volvo XC40, take a look at the XT4, because this vehicle right here is giving you just a bit more when it comes to the interior spacing, but also I think when it comes to the technology, it's a bit more user-friendly as well. So ultimately, I think the XT4 is a great all-arounder. It's not strong in one area over the other, but at the end of the day, if you're just looking for a luxury vehicle, you're looking to upgrade over a Chevrolet, maybe even a Toyota or Honda, definitely take a look at the XT4. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.